This is the General Overseas Service of All India Radio. Namaskar. The news snippets. 25,83,948 people have recovered from COVID-19 in India till now. In the past 24 hours, 60,177 people have recovered. 9,01,338 tests for COVID-19 were conducted in the country in the last 24 hours. Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed a webinar on Atmanirbhar Bharat in defence manufacturing. Prime Minister said our aim should be to boost defence production, develop new technologies and give significant roles to private players in the defence sector. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, addressing the webinar, said defence sector has been identified as one of the core areas to boost Make in India, where immediate transformation is required. The draft defence production and export policy has been placed in public domain for seeking suggestions. Under this policy, 1.75 lakh crore rupees turnover is expected to be achieved by 2025. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said that the Indian economy could contract. This is attributed to the COVID-19 pandemic. The shortfall in tax collection for 2020-21 is estimated to be around 2.35 lakh crore rupees due to the extraordinary situation. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar said that terrorism is a cancer that affects everyone just like a pandemic. The minister made the remarks in an address at the Energy and Resources Institute, TERI. China has reportedly built detention complexes in the Uyghur Muslim-majority Xinjiang province. The Uyghur population routinely faces religious persecution and human rights violations from the Chinese authorities. President Donald Trump has accepted the nomination of the Republican Party to be its presidential candidate for the 3rd November U.S. presidential elections. Vice President Mike Pence has been nominated too by the Grand Old Party. The Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe resigned over health problems. Mr. Abe announced his plan at an emergency meeting of the ruling Liberal Democratic Party. And that is the end of the news snippets.
For many people, the lack of social interaction caused by the pandemic has had a profound effect on their mental health. COVID-19 has impacted the mental health of millions of people in terms of the anxiety and fear it has caused and disruption to mental health services. Mental health was already a neglected health issue globally. Close to 1 billion people are living with a mental disorder. 3 million people die every year from the harmful use of alcohol. And 1 person dies every 40 seconds by suicide. Yet, relatively few people have access to quality mental health services. In low and middle-income countries, more than 75% of people with mental, neurological, and substance use disorders receive no treatment for their condition at all. Stigma, discrimination, punitive legislation, and human rights abuses are still widespread. For this year's World Mental Health Day, WHO, together with our partner organizations, United for Global Mental Health, and the World Federation for Mental Health, is calling for a massive scale-up in investments in mental health.
We present the intriguing game of numbers, the mystery of number calculation solved in seconds. So be ready with your pen and paper and let your mind explore the world of numbers.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Playing with numbers.
Playing with numbers, for the maths lovers and developers. To learn the solution in a few seconds, special types and lengthy questions under the guidance of teacher's teacher, maths wizard Ashok Kumar Roy. Today we will find out the value of very lengthy expressions, which is in the form of sum of squares of 9 natural numbers.
1 square plus 2 square plus 3 square plus 4 square plus 5 square plus 6 square plus 7 square plus 8 square plus 9 square. 5 square is the middle term. We will multiply 9 in the middle term and then we will add 60 in the product. It will be 9 into 5 square plus 60, which will be 9 into 25 plus 60, which will be 225 plus 60, and final answer will be 285.
1 square plus 2 square plus 3 square plus 4 square plus 5 square plus 6 square plus 7 square plus 8 square plus 9 square. Just write it down on the paper. All the terms from 1 square to 9 square. You will find the middle term is 5 square. So, to get the value of this expression, we will multiply 9 to the middle term and then add 60 to the product. The calculation will be something like this. It will be 9 into 5 square plus 60, 9 into 25 plus 60 is equal to 225 plus 60. So the final answer would be 285.
We can calculate the value of the expression 46 square plus 47 square plus 48 square plus 49 square plus 50 square plus 51 square plus 52 square plus 53 square plus 54 square. The answer will be 9 into 50 square plus 60 because 9 is under the rule and 50 square is the middle term and 60 is also under the rule. Answer will be 9 into 2500 plus 60, which will be 22560.
After observing this example, we can calculate very easily the value of the expression 45 square plus 46 square plus 47 square plus 48 square plus 49 square plus 50 square plus 51 square plus 52 square plus 53 square. The answer will be 9 into 50 square plus 60, which is equal to 9 into 2500 plus 60 is equal to 22,560. This would be the final answer. Why? Because 9 is under the rule and 50 square is the middle term and 60 again under the rule. This program was conceptualized and produced by Monica Gulati. Assisted in production by Divya Nambishan and narrated by Lucy Gabriel.
While we face the challenge of the COVID pandemic, we have to be sensitive to the stress and anxiety faced by many of us. और जब मैं ये स्ट्रेस और एंजाइटी की बात कर रही हूँ जो डिप्रेशन भी बन सकता है, it is across ages, it is across professions, it's across regions.
Initially, when I heard of coronavirus, I did not think of the magnitude to which it will have impact on us until we actually saw cases coming up.
और वर्ली कोलेवाड़ा ये फर्स्ट कंटेनमेंट जोन था, डिक्लेयर किया कोई बाहर नहीं जा सकता। अरे बाप रे, एकदम मुश्किल हो गया।
हम धारावी में रहते हैं और पापा मेरे सिक्योरिटी सुपरवाइजर है। सो फाइनेंशियल स्टेटस ठीक ना होने की वजह से तब से वो अभी तक काम पर ही है, वो अभी तक मुझे मिले भी नहीं है। मेरी फैमिली सभी लोग नॉर्थ इंडिया चले गए, मुझे उनकी भी याद आ रही है और मुझे जो फैमिली मेरी चली गई है उनकी भी याद आ रही है।
मैं रोज न्यूज़ लगा के देखना कि धारावी में इतने केसेस बढ़ गए, न्यू की मौत हो गया, तो वो मैं थोड़ा और टेंशन में आती कि कहीं मेरे घर तक ना आ जाए वो चीज़ें, या मेरे घर से कोई बाहर ना चला जाए।
So, when mental health gets impacted, every aspect of your life takes a pain. You're constantly worried about what if I get it, what if someone I care about gets it.
Some of the very clear symptoms that you'll see is a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, a lot of distress in terms of how do you cope.
असं वाटायचं की आपण हेल्पलेस झालोय काय, कुठे गेली आपली ती आतली शक्ती.
I was stressed. There were like spells of frustration because sometimes it was like, why do I have to do this and why isn't he or she supposed to do it? A lot of distress, a lot of mood swings.
तो पहले स्टार्टिंग में तो मैं बहुत डर रही थी कि मैं जॉब भी नहीं कर रही थी। मेरे पापा जो जॉब कर रहे हैं उससे उनका पहले से घर खर्च नहीं चल पा रहा था, अब तो जॉब भी बंद हो जाएगा तो मुझे भी जॉब करना है। तो मेरे को टेंशन आता था कि मैं कर क्या रही हूँ, मैं किधर हूँ।
अकेलापन महसूस होने लगा और खाना तो बिल्कुल ही नहीं खाने लगा। और वो सिचुएशन थी कि जहाँ पे लग रहा था कि अब मैं बस सुसाइड कर लूँ या फिर ऐसा कुछ करूँ कि मैं सबसे दूर हो जाऊँ, सभी से दूर हो जाऊँ।
I think to myself that do I need to talk to somebody, do I need to just talk it out.
तो धीरे धीरे जब लोगों का सपोर्ट मिलने लगा लाइक स्नेहा हमें मेंटल हेल्थ पे सेशंस लेने लगे, थोड़ा बहुत वो हमें राशन के लिए हेल्प करने लगे, तो मेरा टेंशन कहीं ना कहीं थोड़ा कम होने लगा।
और न्यूज़ कम किए देखने के लिए, ऐसी कुछ मूवीज देखेंगे जिसमें मुझे एन्जॉयमेंट मिले।
एक महत्त्वाची गोष्ट म्हणजे आमच्या ऑर्गनायझेशन मुक्तांगणने काय केलं, त्यांनी 26ला ॲप आम्हाला इंट्रोड्यूस केला। एकमेकांना बोलणं म्हणजे कामाचं नाही, त्याच्यावर आपलं मजाक मस्ती जोक्स फन चालू झालं ना की सगळं विसरून जातं, एक आपल्याला पॉझिटिव्हिटी येते।
तो ये सारी फीलिंग को मैंने अपने एक डायरी में लिखना स्टार्ट किया। उसके देखकर मैंने सोचा कि मैं इस चीज़ में इतना ज़्यादा अंदर चला गया हूँ कि मुझे अब बाहर निकलने की ज़रूरत है। और फिर धीरे धीरे ऐसी चीज़ों से दूर होने लगा जो मुझे बार बार बताए कि इस टाइम पर कोरोना पैंडेमिक चालू है।
It's important to prioritize your self-care. It's important to prioritize your well-being. It's one of the most important thing is to remember, until you don't check in with people, you will not know for sure.
So check what they are already doing and encourage and motivate them to at least continue that. Acknowledge and validate that, it's okay to feel this way. Show them unconditional positive regard and tell them that they are worth it. This is temporary, but it still needs work.
मिनिस्ट्री की तरफ से, मंत्रालय की तरफ से, सरकार की तरफ से हमने एक हेल्पलाइन खोली है 08046110007। मैं सबसे यही गुजारिश करूंगी कि प्लीज़ कम फॉरवर्ड एंड टॉक अबाउट व्हाट यू आर फीलिंग। वी ऑल गो थ्रू दिस।
You are tuned to the General Overseas Service of All India Radio. We now bring you today's commentary, Renewed Momentum in India-Vietnam Relations. It is scripted by Dr. Roop Narayan Das, Strategic Analyst, and read by Kaushik Rai. India-Vietnam relations, which was elevated to comprehensive strategic partnership during the visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to Vietnam in 2017, continues to be an important factor not only in the bilateral relationship between the two countries, but also for regional peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific. This has acquired added traction in the backdrop of China's belligerence in the South China Sea and elsewhere as well. It augurs well that there have been regular interaction between the leaders of the two countries at various levels, both through bilateral institutional mechanisms and also on the margins of multilateral meetings. It is against this backdrop that the 17th India-Vietnam Joint Commission meeting on trade, economic, scientific and technological cooperation was held via video conference. The JCM assumes strategic significance. The meeting was co-chaired by Dr. S. Jaishankar, India's External Affairs Minister, and Mr. Pham Binh Minh, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Socialist Republic of Vietnam. During the meeting, both sides reviewed the recent developments in India-Vietnam strategic partnership and discussed the entire gamut of their wide-ranging engagement. The agreement to add new momentum to the economic and defense dimensions of the relationship was conferred upon between the two countries, and to explore closer cooperation in emerging areas such as civil nuclear energy, space, marine science, and new technologies. The two sides also shared their views on regional and international issues of mutual interest, especially in the context of the outbreak and spread of COVID-19 pandemic. Both India and Vietnam have earned international applause for effectively managing and mitigating the dreaded coronavirus. At a time when Indian economy is being recalibrated under Prime Minister Modi's vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat for enhancing resilience through self-reliance and human-centric globalization for India's economic revival, Dr. Jaishankar invited Vietnam to take advantage of India's new economic capacities and demands. As the two countries enjoy convergence of outlook and approach on a number of regional and global issues, both sides agreed to coordinate closely at multilateral forums, including at the UN Security Council, where both India and Vietnam will serve concurrently as non-permanent members in 2021. The two sides also agreed to step up cooperation and coordination at important regional forums under the ASEAN framework. Dr. Jaishankar expressed India's full support to Vietnam's chairmanship of ASEAN this year and appreciated the positive leadership provided by Vietnam to ASEAN when the world is confronted with the COVID-19 pandemic. Earlier, the Vietnamese envoy in New Delhi had briefed India's Foreign Secretary about the acceleration of tensions in the South China Sea in the wake of China's significant ramping up of its military presence by deploying a large number of ships and fighter jets in the resource-rich South China Sea, despite the calls for restraint by several countries. The Vietnamese ambassador gave an account of the current situation in the South China Sea, including around Vietnamese waters, where India's ONGC Videsh has oil exploration projects. India has been supporting freedom of navigation and access to resources in the South China Sea in accordance with the principles of international law, including the 1982 UN Convention on the Law of Sea. India's defense, particularly naval cooperation with Vietnam and the credit line to Vietnam extended during the visit of Prime Minister Modi for acquiring high-speed patrol boats from India, reflects India's concerns and commitment to Vietnam's territorial security and sovereignty. People of India hold Vietnam and Vietnamese people in very high esteem for their tenacity and heroic struggle. Vietnamese leaders like Ho Chi Minh and General Vo Nguyen Giap are household names in India. They tested and trusted historical, cultural and political bonding between the two countries, and their leaders has not only sustained the relationship between the two countries and their peoples, but also elevated it to a high strategic level. That was today's commentary, Renewed Momentum in India-Vietnam Relations. It was scripted by Dr. Rupa Narayan Das, strategic analyst, and read by Kaushik Rai. This broadcast came to you from the General Overseas Service of All India Radio.
Hello and welcome to Folk Tales from India, and continuing with our series of Panchatantra stories, we begin with this tale, The Donkey and the Washerman. Once there lived a poor washerman who had a pet donkey. The donkey was very thin because he had very little to eat. One day the washerman came across a dead tiger. He thought, I will put the tiger's skin on the donkey and let him graze in the neighbor's wheat fields at night. The farmers will mistake him for a tiger. The donkey can eat their crops throughout the night, while they would be too terrified to throw him out. The washerman immediately put his clever plan into action, and it worked. One night, while the donkey was busy eating in the field, he heard a female donkey braying at a distance. He became so excited that he could not help braying loudly in return. Then the farmers came to know the truth and severely beat up the donkey. The moral: it doesn't pay to pretend to be what you are not. The next Panchatantra tale is titled The Elephants and the Mice. Once a group of mice lived in a palace they made beside a deep lake. One day, a herd of elephants, while going towards the lake, ran over hundreds of little mice. The mice that survived were worried. The leader of the mice said, "We should appeal to their kindness." The mice requested the leader of the elephant herd, "Your herd stomped through our home on the way to the lake, killing hundreds of mice. We beg you to take another route." The elephant leader agreed. One day the king ordered to trap all the elephants. The traps were laid in the forest. All the elephants except for one were caught in the traps. Then the elephant that escaped the traps went to the leader of the mice and requested for their help. All the mice hurried towards the trapped elephants and began to chew off the thick ropes with their sharp teeth, freeing all the elephants. The moral: kindness is always returned with more kindness. The next folktale is titled The Hunter and the Rabbit. Once a cruel hunter used to catch rabbits and feast upon their meat. One day he caught a rabbit and started for his home, holding him by his ears. On the way home, the hunter met a saint. The saint asked the hunter to free the rabbit and get blessed for the good deed. The hunter not only refused, but decided mercilessly to cut the throat of the rabbit then and there, right before the saint. He took out a sharp knife from his bag, but when he tried to cut the rabbit's neck, the knife slipped from his hand and fell on his foot, severely injuring him. He instantly cried out in pain and released the rabbit. The hunter paid the price for his sins. Since his foot was very badly injured, he could not walk properly and became unfit to hunt ever again. And the fourth Panchatantra tale is titled How a Sparrow Came to Grief. A female sparrow made a beautiful nest under a big tree. One day it rained heavily. A monkey, completely drenched in the rain and shivering from the cold, came rushing to the tree for cover. Feeling sorry at the condition of the monkey, the female sparrow said, "You seem to be an able animal. Why didn't you build a house so that you could shelter yourself from the rain and cold?" Angered by this, the monkey said, "Why don't you shut up and mind your own business?" The monkey thought to himself, "I must teach her a lesson if she doesn't stop advising me." Turning to the female sparrow, the monkey said, "Haven't you heard the saying of the elders that you should only offer advice to those who seek it?" When the female sparrow persisted with her advice, the monkey climbed up the tree and tore away her nest. The fifth Panchatantra tale is titled The Crow and the Oyster. One day, a hungry crow found an oyster on the beach. In order to eat the tasty meat inside, he tried to break open the oyster. The oyster did not open. He then tried to use his beak to take out the meat, but failed to open the shell. Then he hit the oyster with a stone, but it still remained tightly shut. Meanwhile, another cunning crow came by and said, "My friend, the oyster will not open the way you are trying," and continued, "I advise that you take the oyster in your beak and fly high into the air, then drop it onto the rocks below. Only then it will break open." The hungry crow liked the idea and hence followed the suggestion. The crow flew up with the oyster and it broke open as the crow dropped it from above. But the other crow picked it up and ate the meat inside. By the time the first crow reached there, only the pieces of broken shell were left for him. Next we have a folktale titled Coronation of an Owl. When the world was created, all the creatures flocked with their fellow members to choose their respective kings. The human beings chose a gracious, deserving young man. The animals chose the mighty lion, and the fish chose the large fish named Ananda as their respective rulers. Birds also gathered to make a choice of their king. They chose the owl as their king and recited, "Today at this auspicious hour, we choose owl as our king." Suddenly a crow interrupted, "Why should a grumpy owl be a king with so many younger and wiser crows around?" The birds too felt that and therefore decided to choose swan as their king. Since then, the crow and the owl are at loggerheads. And finally, we have this Panchatantra tale titled The Greedy Crow. Once a pigeon made his nest in the basket that used to hang near the window of a merchant's kitchen. The merchant instructed his cook not to shoo away the pigeon. One day, a crow befriended the pigeon so that he could have a chance to enter the kitchen. That day, the merchant's cook prepared a delicious dish of fish. When the cook left the kitchen, the crow flew down into the kitchen to eat the delicious fish. But the plate covering the dish struck the floor with a loud bang. The noise was heard by the cook and he rushed into the kitchen. By then the crow had got hold of a piece of fish. Seeing the fish in the crow's beak, the cook became furious. He ran and caught the crow by the neck and plucked out all the crow's feathers and wings and then threw him out of the window. And with that, we conclude this program of Folk Tales from India, in which you heard Panchatantra stories.